rolling.
What's up, Doc? What's cooking? What's up, Doc? Oh, you're looking for Bugs Bunny bunting. Duck is gonna hunting just to get a rabbit skin, but now the rabbit's gone again. What's up, Doc? What's cooking? Hey, look out! Stop! You're gonna hurt someone with that old shotgun. What's up, Doc? We really mean it. What's up, Doc?
Hello, friends. Are you ready?
What's for dinner? I'm hungry.
Yum, 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 yum.
Delicious.
Let's go, everybody. Yay! Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Zoe's Blind Kitchen Corner. Today, we are going to make something simple, but something that everybody loves. We're going to make macaronia me queimada. Now you're all raising an eyebrow saying, excuse me, what are we making? Yeah, we're just making meat sauce with spaghetti. Or your choice of pasta. I'm using linguine today. You can use either linguine or spaghetti. Of course, as always, if you need to reach me, zoesblindkitchencorner@gmail.com. Hit like on this video. Hit subscribe. That would be great. Thank you in advance for anybody watching. So, simple ingredients today, but as you all know by now, I forget. So I've written everything down, so I'm gonna... by the way, while we're doing this, I have my water for my linguine on the burner, and I've turned on the heat to high so it can boil while we're doing all of this. If I wasn't sitting here yapping away like I always do, I have to tell you that this is a recipe that from start to finish, it's probably about an hour. So within an hour, you've got homemade food on the table. Well, homemade, except for the pasta. Pasta's not homemade, it's store-bought. But anyways, okay. So, let me turn on the iPad. Give me a second. As always. Okay. Password. Alrighty. Oh, okay. Notes up. Okay, we've got that on. And rotor. Okay, like I said, we turn the rotor to lines for those who are visually impaired or blind. So our ingredients for today: 1 kilogram lean ground beef, 1 can 14 ounces crushed tomatoes, 1 heaping tablespoon tomato paste, 1 teaspoon organic chicken base, 2 or 3 handfuls of finely chopped parsley, 2 large or 3 medium red onions, water, 1 tablespoon dried basil, 1 teaspoon dried oregano, 1 teaspoon celery seed, half a teaspoon of garlic powder, 2 pinches of pepper, 1 teaspoon of sea salt, and we need a kilogram of spaghetti, or in my case, linguine, and cheese for topping, and I'll talk about the cheese later. Of course, this is a Greek version of meat sauce with spaghetti. So, in Greece, macaronia is a general word for pasta. So if they were to use macaroni, they would call it kofto macaronaki. If they were to use penne pasta, they would say pennes. so on and so forth. So you get the idea. The word for ground beef in Greece or in Greek is kima. However, if you go to a butcher in Greek and say kima, he's going to ask you what kind, because kima really means ground meat. You would have to tell him that you want beef or chicken or pork or whatever the case is. Though, if you're curious, the word for beef in Greek is moschari. And if you were asking for beef, ground beef, you would change the word, because Greek grammar is much different than English. You would change the word from moschari and you would say moscharisio kima. So that's not that you guys ever have to ask in Greek, but I thought just for curiosity I would tell you guys. Okay, so we're going to start off our, I've just pulled out the ground beef from the fridge. Now, usually people tell you that it's good for meat to come to room temperature. Not completely, but maybe about half an hour. So I just pulled it out, but I'm not worried, because by the time I do the onions and so on and so forth, we'll be ready to go. So I'm just going to, I'm going to make a, you know what? No, I'm going to bring the pot over here, because there's no room. In my tiny Zoe's Blind Kitchen Corner, my tiny kitchen corner. So I've got a non-stick pot. We don't need any fat. Ground beef has its own fat. So I'm just going to pick up the ground beef and toss it in the pan. Now, if you have time, you can, with your hands, you can pull the ground beef apart a little bit while you're adding it in. You don't have to, because just like we did in our chili recipe, we're going to chop it up with the wooden sort of spatula spoon thing. So I'm just gonna grab the whole block. Whoops, we don't need the paper. And I'm just gonna let this all drop in here. And I'm gonna check and see if there's any more. And of course, I'm using my fingers, you know, to feel the paper and see if anything is left. And there's nothing left. I'm gonna throw it in the sink. I've told you guys many times that yes, I use kitchen gadgets, but in a blind kitchen, our ears are a necessity. Our hands, we feel for things, are a necessity. Our smell is definitely a necessity. You know, if you've got a cake in the oven, you can smell the vanilla. You can smell the cake baking. While I'm talking to you guys, I'm kind of separating the meat with my fingers. You can definitely smell something burning. If you smell something burning, well, yeah, then we're in trouble. Anyways, like I said, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, okay? I'm just going to place this on the cold burner. I'm not going to turn on the heat. And I'm going to disinfect my hands because I touched the meat, so give me a second. And I told you guys before that it's a necessity, in my opinion at least, that your hands should definitely be washed thoroughly after touching meat. And then once you're done your whole recipe, you definitely should disinfect your counters. Give it a nice wash with warmy soap water, and then use your Clorox wipes or Lysol wipes or something to that effect. So you wash your counter with soapy warm water, excuse me, I don't know what's wrong with me today anyways. Dry it, and then take a couple of Lysol wipes or whichever one you use, and rub down your counters. Just an extra step of production. Okay, so I've showed you guys, I've got my spices all in a bowl ready, and I'm not going to go over them again. We went over them. It's the salt, oregano, basil, pepper, celery seed. I'm just going to dump that into the ground beef. And again, our burner is off, okay? So nothing to worry about. I'm just dumping everything in at this point. So our spices are all in. Our ground beef is there. Now, I've already cleaned the onions because, of course, I've showed you guys how to clean onions in the past. So, I'm going to run them through my food processor. And what did we call a food processor? What do they call it in Greece? Multi. So you'll hear a Greek woman saying, I ran it through my multi. So that's what they call a food processor in Greeks. So I'm just gonna slice up my, oops. Okay. Now I can hear that my water's getting to the boiling point. Remember I have my back burner. I have a big, humongous stainless steel pot. And I've got water in there. And I can hear it that it's very close to boiling, if not already. I'll check on it in a second. So let me just lift up the lid. No, not quite, but almost. So I'm gonna slice up my onions like I've told you guys in the past. No, esto es muy jifi. So I actually can fit this whole onion in here. And we're just gonna, as always, gonna pulse. So while I'm pulsing, I can hear it, I can hear the blades, I can hear it going cluck, 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 something like that. It's hard to describe. You'll know when you do it with your ears. And then eventually the sound that the food processor makes is a smoother sound. So that's how I kind of know that all the big chunks are gone. So. So again, what I just told you guys, I'm using my ears. And I opened up the food processor and I'm pushing the onion down with my hands, with my finger actually. I'm just pushing it down from the sides of the wall. And I can feel that it's all chopped up, maybe one little piece that's a little bigger. That's okay. I'm gonna take my other onion. Now I have the water that's boiling. I have the pot, when I checked on it in front of you guys, I left it open a little bit, like a jar, how we say, just so that it doesn't boil over. And it'll be a little bit easier for me to hear when it's boiling. And I actually hear that it's starting to boil. And I'm gonna check on it again. Yeah, a few little bubbles, it's almost there. And again, while I'm talking to you guys, I'm slicing up my second onion. Now, I didn't empty out the food processor, so I'm not going to add the whole onion in. I added almost all of it, but not all. And I'm going to pulse again. Now, I think it needs more, but I'm going to check on it. And I'm pushing again. I'm pushing down with my fingers, and I can feel that not all of the onion is chopped up. Almost chopped up, but there's a few pieces. So, okay, I'm going to try again. I'm going to check on it again. Now, if I put too much in here, so here's a piece, a whole humongous piece of onion that didn't chop up. And there's a few more. I probably just put a little bit too much. That's okay. We will take care of this. Don't worry. Don't fret. So I'm just going to put these two pieces aside for a second. I need to check on my water. And we're at the boiling point. So I'm going to uncover the pot, and I'm gonna put the lid aside because we're gonna need it again. So I'm gonna stop showing you what's going on with the onions for a second. Now I've got linguini. You can put them in whole or you can break them up. We don't prefer them whole. We feel like they're just too long. They're gonna be hanging off our spoon. Some people use spoon to roll their pasta in it. Some people don't. I find that linguine or spaghetti is too long. So I just use the edge of the counter. I try to center it and I just press down and I broke it. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the second package. And don't worry if you think it's actually fully centered or not. I'm just opening up the package, which I forgot to get scissors. So I'm just gonna use my teeth. And you can hear that the water now is at a rapid boil. Okay, so again, what have we said was spaghetti? On our way back on our first episode, I'm gonna feel for the edge of the pot. I'm touching the edge of the pot with the package of spaghetti and I'm gonna tilt it right in. Okay, one is in. So I'm doing a kilogram, right? So 500 gram packages. Same thing, feel for the pot and tip it right in. And I didn't open the package well enough, so not all of it spilled out. There's a handful. That's okay. All right. That's in. And I'm going to take my sea salt. Remember, I said 1,000 times, sea salt is not that strong. So I'm just going to scoop up a whole bunch of sea salt. And I'm going to toss it into the pot. And I'm going to need that spoon again, so we'll just leave it aside. And I don't need the salt anymore. And I'm going to take my wooden spoon and I'm going to stir up the spaghetti in the pot. And it's safe to hold the pot with one hand, of course. Now, I forgot to write down the al dente time for this spaghetti. So I'm gonna set the timer once it starts to boil, because right now I'm just mixing it up. The rapid boil is at a low boil now. We want it to start rapid boiling before we set the timer. I forgot to check the time. So I'm gonna set my timer for 12 minutes. Usually most pasta is between 12, there's even some that are 10 to 15 minutes for al dente. Check your package. Now, I have seniors in my house that don't like al dente. So I will be boiling these up a little more than al dente for them. And I'll let you guys know. So hold on. Okay, it's boiling. It's not rapid boiling, but it is boiling. Yeah, there it goes. Okay, so I'm going to set the timer now for 12 minutes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 minutes.
Alrighty, check it by pressing the minute button or the second button or the hour button and nothing happens. That means it's working. So let's go back to our onions. So now, like I said, there was a few pieces that didn't quite chop up, and it could be because the onion is tough, and it could be because I added a little bit too much. So I'm just putting my fingers in and I'm removing the big chunks. So here's another one. Now that's good enough for now. I'm going to push the onion down with my fingers and I'm going to give it another pulse. Okay. And I'm just feeling, I'm putting my fingers in the onion mixture to feel if there's any big chunks, and there isn't. So, I'm going to move over to the pot. I'm touching the pot, it's on a cold burner, and I have my food processor container in my hand, and I've got, the blade is in the middle. So I'm just gonna lift up the blade. It's got a whole bunch of onion on it, and I'm gonna tap it against the edge, and I'm gonna let it drop. Now, if you're very confident, like I am in the kitchen, you can touch the blades gently, just in case some onion didn't come off. And in my case, most of it did, so who cares? I'm just gonna set the blade aside, and I'm gonna dump out what's in the container. I'm gonna push it out with my finger right into my ground beef. Juices and all, whatever's in your container. It should be very finely chopped or grated onion with juices. Just dump it all in. Okay. I'm gonna move back to the appliance. I'm gonna reinstall the container, which has these little, I don't know if the camera can actually see them. It's got these little grooves at the bottom, and you kind of line it up with the grooves on the appliance. So you feel, you're not gonna get it exactly, but you will. So that's approximately, I put it in and it seems to set, and then I just turn it and it clicked into place. So I'm gonna put the blade back in, and now I'm gonna put in the rest of the onion that was left that we didn't actually chop up. And I'm gonna put those large pieces that didn't chop up before. And that should do the trick. And if at this point it doesn't, those pieces don't chop up, then that's really tough onion and it shouldn't go in your food anyway. So now our pasta's at the 9-minute mark. We just heard the timer. So anyways, I'm gonna pulse the onion again. And I heard the motor of the food processor change its sound. So I'm gonna open, and I opened up and I'm checking again. I found one little piece that didn't chop up, so I'm just gonna toss it out because it might just be tough onion that's being stubborn, and we're good. We're good to go. So I'm just gonna throw whatever's on the cap of the food processor with my fingers into the ground beef. Because you can get half a teaspoon or so that's on the cap of the container. So why throw that out, right? So I'm just pushing it off with my fingers, whatever you can get out. And dump it in the sink. Remove the container and you just twist. And the same thing like before. And just pulled off the blade. Tapping. Now I'm going to check with my fingers. And I don't touch the blade on the sides or where the points are. I find the fat part of the blade and I slide my fingers across slowly. So that way I'm positive I'm not going to get cut. And I'm going to throw the rest of the onions that are in our container. And I felt a piece. See? There's a big piece. That's a little bit too big. I would have left this in if this was a piece that was cut up in 3. But it's not, so I'm going to throw it out because I felt it with my hands. If you've got a piece that's, I don't know, a quarter of the size of your nail, your fingernail, that's okay. It's going to cook up, and onion does wilt, and when you saute it and everything, it does wilt and get a little smaller, so don't worry about it. And in the end, okay, we've got all our onion, and in the end, if you miss a large piece, it's okay. Especially if you're serving to your family. If you're not, then maybe you want to check it with your fingers a little bit more thoroughly. Now, our pasta needs to be stirred. You need to stir up your pasta once or twice, maybe sometimes even 3 times during the cooking. And just stir it and scoop in as if you're tossing it. Just toss it all up and stir. Okay? Now, We don't need this. We don't need the knife. Everything goes into the sink. I've got my better. I've showed you guys this before, but we'll see if I can get it there.
No. A little bit more. A little bit more. Just a little bit more. And there you go.
So again, it's the jar. I've showed you guys this before. It's called Better Than Bouillon Organic Roasted Chicken Base. So I'm just going to give our meat sauce, our ground beef, a little bit more flavor by adding some of this in. So I'm going to add it in now, and our burner's still off, guys. So I've got just a regular teaspoon, not our measuring teaspoons. So when I gave you the
5 minutes.
amount for the spices, that was using measuring spoons. This, the 1 teaspoon of chicken base, is just a regular teaspoon. And I don't, all you do is, doesn't want to stay, okay. All you do is just scoop up a whole bunch with your teaspoon. And I'm actually just to, yeah, see? So I'm feeling with my fingers, and it's what I want. It's a heaping teaspoon. I'm going to push it off. This is sticky, very thick, sticky stuff. So you need to push it off with your finger. I'm just pushing it off the teaspoon with my finger. And you might not get all of it off. There's a little inkling of it left on my finger and my whatever. So now, I'm going to cap this up again. Make sure you don't have any on the outside, which I've checked. And this, once you've opened up the chicken base, it needs to be refrigerated. So give me a second, because I don't want this to go bad. Okay, I just popped it back into the fridge. I'm going to stir up my spaghetti once more. With the chicken base, it lasts a pretty long time in the fridge, but not indefinitely. It's not going to last 6 months, but it needs to be refrigerated, this particular brand. Again, I'm just stirring up the spaghetti. Okay, now, I've got the only thing left on my counter, is my crushed tomatoes, which we're not going to add in now, my tomato paste, and water. So we're just going to leave the tomato paste, the crushed tomatoes, we're going to leave them aside for now. We're going to need the water soon, so I'm just going to bring it closer to me, and I'm going to need the tomato paste. I felt a hair on my arm. Remember what I said about tying your hair back? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I hate to admit it, for vanity reasons, I've got my hair down. Yeah. I shouldn't, but I do. Okay. Our pasta's almost done, or we think it's almost done. Until that timer goes off, I want to tell you guys something about this tomato paste. I usually buy the cans. And I told you guys that I open them up, I use what I want, I add olive oil.
2 minutes left.
I add olive oil on top, and then I use saran wrap to cover it and store it in the fridge, and it should last a few weeks. I can't definitely say how long. It might last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, depends. But I actually, at the Whole Foods, I found organic tomato paste, which I do try to use organic as much as possible. This is much more than the cans. It's a jar. It's a glass jar with a metal cap, which is good because I can actually use my pen friend to label this jar. So my chicken base has a metal cap, and so does this tomato paste. So I can actually label this. I should have had it ready to show you guys, but maybe I'll do it on the next episode. I'm gonna label this organic tomato paste. So when I need to go to the fridge, I'm gonna find it. The good thing with this is, because it's got a metal cap, I don't need to use the saran wrap. I still need to do the oil trick. So I'm just gonna open it up so we can have it ready. And it's one of those jars where you gotta hit the bottom with your palm of your hand until it goes pop. Okay. Now, before I get to my ground beef, we're almost at the 12-minute mark. So, this is the fun part and the hard part for a blind person. I'm gonna give my spaghetti a stir. And I'm gonna try, so I'm scooping from the bottom up. And hopefully I've got spaghetti on my spoon. So, I have the spoon raised all the way to much higher than the edge of the pot. And I'm gonna grab a spaghetti and I'm gonna put it in my mouth and taste it. Yeah, so it's at the al dente mark. So 12 minutes was a good thing. So I think this brand is called Kefalotiri. It's not good enough for the seniors in my house. So I'm gonna set it for another 2 minutes. And I'm gonna press the timer so we can taste it. Cause let me get rid of that spoon out of there because I forgot. Even though I'm cooking my pasta past the al dente mark, my husband and I and one other family member, we've got 2 seniors in the house, shouldn't be eating mushy pasta just because we have seniors. And I'm not going to cook up 2 batches so I can get them their mushy pasta. So I kind of compromise something between really mushy and al dente. So while we're waiting for that for the 2 minutes, I'm just going to clear my sink because we're going to need it for the pasta, which is almost done. So I'm just going to grab everything out of here. I have a double sink, so I'm just putting all the stuff that needs washing in the sink that's empty. And I'm just going to grab all the garbage because remember I threw in the paper from the meat and a whole bunch of things. And I'm just going to toss it in the garbage. Did I get everything? We're going to feel our sink. Yeah, there's some onion, but the onion's okay. Garbage is done. Okay, need to go back to my pasta. We've got 30 seconds now. Remember, we originally set it at the 12-minute mark. Now we're almost to the 14-minute mark. So I'm going to find my spoon, okay? It's telling me 20 seconds. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to stir it up. And I'm going to scoop from the bottom. Your spoon should feel heavy. And I'm going to lift up as high as my arm can go over the pot so I'm nowhere near. And I'm going to try to feel. I feel and I grab a piece of spaghetti, toss the rest back in. Taste again. I think it needs 1 more minute for them. For me, it's good. 1 more minute. So the timer, it's beeping. It's telling me that the 14 minutes is up or whatever we set it to, the 2 minutes. If I don't turn it off right now, when it stops beeping, that means it's 1 minute over the time you set it. So at the 1 minute mark, so we set it for, just checking on something. We set it for 2 minutes. When this stops beeping, it's not going to announce it, but it's 1 minute over. If you keep letting it, you still, see it just stopped beeping. It should announce, but it doesn't. That's 1 minute over. I'm going to actually let the timer just keep going. And you'll hear, in about a minute, it's going to say 2 minutes over. You'll hear it. So, I'm going to turn off very carefully. I need to reach behind, not over the pot, and turn off my burner. And I'm going to grab my pot and lift and move over to the sink. Now, most of you, I just set the pot in the sink. Most of you would strain this into a strainer. I'm lucky. I found this pot 20 years ago and it's wonderful. It's got a strainer that sits right into your pot. So I'm just going to lift, and you can hear the water dripping. I lifted up the strainer that sits into the pot. So you see, it said 2 minutes over. I don't know if you guys heard it. I'm just gonna let the timer stand. And I'm just shaking, okay? So this is good because I don't have to tilt pots with boiling water and so on and so forth. And the pot sits right in the actual strainer. If you guys can find one of these pots, it would be great. Now, you can either put this aside on a plate, because now I need to grab the pot with the water and empty it out. And it's a little hot, so be careful. Alrighty. So it's empty, okay? And I'm gonna just set it on my counter. I'm gonna put the strained pasta, whoops, back into the sink. And I'm gonna grab, yeah, I was gonna grab water, but I don't have water. No, oh yeah? Oh, I do have water. Yay! Thank you, cameraman. So, my pasta's in the strainer. You guys would just run it under the tap. I'm gonna throw cold or room temperature water into my pasta. I just wanna stop the cooking process. Now, I'm gonna use my hands, but be careful. Use your hand on top, because if your hand goes too far in, you're gonna get burned. So I'm tossing the top pasta, and slowly I'm bringing up pasta from the bottom. And you don't have to get it totally cold. I just use the jug of water, which I don't know, I think this is 5 liters. You would just run it under your tap. Now, I'm gonna lift up the pasta and shake. See, as I'm shaking, you can hear water dripping. And I'm just tossing the pasta. And I'm gonna dump it. Doesn't matter if you don't get all the water out. I'm gonna dump it back into the pot where we cooked it, but now it's without the strainer. Okay. Now, just gonna use my fingers to check and see if it all came out, because pasta gets sticky, right, because of the starch. And it also sticks right into the holes of the strainer, see? So a lot of pasta left in here. So I'm just tossing it all into the pot. Now, the way I started the recipe, because I'm talking to you guys and showing you guys things, the meat sauce should have already been cooking. So if I wasn't talking to you guys, I would have had the meat sauce going, and I actually should have done it that way. I'm sorry. I should have did the pasta once I had the meat sauce boiling. So it's nice to serve the pasta fresh. Not that you can't serve it. I'm going to serve it later. There's nothing wrong with it. So, okay, we've got all the pasta out. Whoops. Got all the pasta out. I'm just getting the starch off my hands. And I've got a bottle. Is there in here? Is there? Okay. Yep. Got a bottle of olive oil, as much or as little as you'd like. I'm just going to sprinkle olive oil into the pasta. Just nice, raw, extra virgin olive oil. And we're going to grab our spoon that we were using to stir up the pasta, and we're going to toss this with the olive. This will help a little bit with the pasta not sticking. I guarantee you it will still stick. That's why I said it's nice. If your meat sauce was ready now, this is a perfect time to serve. So if you're going to have dinner at 8 o'clock, start your recipe around 7-ish, and then you still would add olive oil to the pasta, but, it wouldn't be all stuck together. Anyways, okay, I've tossed this, And for right now, yeah, we don't need the wooden spoon, so put that aside. Put the lid back on your pasta because you don't want it to get hard.
7 minutes over.
Yeah, that's the wrong lid. Ha, ha, ha. All right, found the right lid. Okay, gonna set the pasta aside somewhere. No. Okay, we've set the pasta aside, so let's get on to our ground beef. And I'm sorry, guys, I should have done it a different way for time's sake, but I didn't. What can you do? You guys either love me or hate me. Ha ha. And I know most of you love me. I hope. Okay. All right, let's get on to our ground beef. So, I've told you guys about the wooden spoon that feels like a spatula without holes. I'm going to center now that our burner's off, I can center the pot and turn on the heat to high.
8 minutes over.
Yeah, so I think by now you guys have probably heard the timer, right? I can turn it off. It actually just said 8 minutes over. So I'm just going to press start, or the start button, which is also the stop button, and I'm going to press the clear button. So it's going to be ready for us when we need it again in a bit. So, what are we doing with our ground beef? Just like the chili, we are going to put our spoon in vertically, and we're going to slice through. We're going to slice through all the ingredients. This is the way you are breaking up your meat. And once you give it a few, you can hear, every time you guys hear this, that means I'm slicing through. So 3, 4, 5, I'm just slicing through in different directions. And I'm going to fold my ingredients over, just like you do with a cake batter. Fold it over. Okay, and again, chop, 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 chop. This will distribute all the spices, the onion, the chicken base, and it's breaking up the meat. Now I'm going to turn down the heat to medium-high. So like we said, that's 7 for me. Number 7. Medium is 5. High is 9. So we've got it around 7. And we want to saute our meat and break it up at the same time. So at this point, I'm going to turn the timer back on.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes. 7 minutes.
7 minutes. I've pressed start. I want to saute this for about 7 minutes. Excuse me. Now, you don't need to be on top of it for the full 7 minutes. The reason I am on top of it is because I'm still breaking up the meat. And I'm going in circles. I'm going around the pot. And I'm chopping, you know what I mean? I'm slicing through with this, it's got a flat edge to it. Now if you're using a non-stick pot, you could use just a regular spatula to do this. But like I said, I like using my non-stick pots. 99% of the time, I will not burn my food in this, even if I forget it a little bit. Okay, I'm going to leave it for now. As usual, I dropped my kitchen towel. I'm going to let this sizzle. I'm going to keep doing this for the next 7 minutes. Every so often I'm going to break up the meat and toss and turn and so on. in the meantime, I want to talk to you guys about the cheese. Give me a second. I'm getting cheese out of the fridge. I'm going to go over this way because I need to be near the food. So, another reason this is Greek meat sauce. Ooh, I don't know if you guys can hear that on the camera. I hear thunder. It's starting to thunderstorm. Ooh, okay. Obviously it's Greek because Greeks, just like Italians, use a lot of tomatoes and oregano and basil and garlic and onions. That's a base for Greek cooking. The other reason this is Greek is because we're going to use Greek cheese. I understand, and I've mentioned this many times, that not everybody has a Greek bakery or supermarket near them. If you do, try it the Greek way. The cheese that Greeks use on their spaghetti, and I'm just going to set it down for a second. I'm going to go back to give our food a stir while I'm talking to you guys. The Greeks use 2 different cheeses on their spaghetti with meat sauce, or even spaghetti with tomato sauce, or even just plain spaghetti with cheese. One is called Mitzithra. Try saying that. Mitzithra. The other one is called Kefalotiri. So you would go to a Greek bakery and you would say, I would like Kefalotiri for spaghetti. Because there's other types of Kefalotiri too. Or you would ask for Mitzithra. I'm going to put those in the description box, and you would ask them to grate them for you. They will do that. You can grate it yourself, but why? They'll do it for you. So this, the one I have in my hands, this is actually pre-grated. They sell them in these containers. This is actually a mix of Kefalotiri and Mitzithra. Now my mom, she likes the plain Mitzithra, so I think I bought 2 or 3 containers. I think I bought 2 containers of Mitzithra, and I bought 1 container of mixed Kefalotiri Mitzithra. And my mom, I don't know how many grams this is. I should have asked somebody before we started the video. My mom will probably use half this container just on her portion. She's a cheese lover. She'll put half a spoon of meat sauce. She doesn't care too much. Not that she doesn't like it. She just prefers cheese. And she will put tons and tons of cheese on her spaghetti. I'm back to stirring. So see, every time I'm talking to you guys, but I'm stopping and going back to my food and stirring and slicing away, breaking up the meat. So now the cheeses, if for some reason you don't copy the recipe that's below, which will have the Greek names of the cheese, if you go to a Greek bakery and say to them, hi, I'm not Greek, but I'm making, meat sauce with spaghetti, and I saw it on YouTube, a Greek girl was making it, and I don't remember the name, but I want the Greek cheese for spaghetti. They will give you the right one. They might even ask you. They might say, well, we have 2 kinds. Which one would you like? We have Kefalotiri, which is starts with a K. And the other one is Mitzithra, which starts with an M. The Mitzithra is a little bit saltier, I think, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Mitzithra is a little bit saltier. So I'm just going to stop about the cheese for a second. Right now that I'm talking to you guys, as I'm breaking up the meat and slicing through, I felt a big chunk with my wooden spoon. So I sat there at the same spot, just mushing it up. So you'll feel, if you feel big parts, just mush it all up on the spot. So think of somebody running, instead of running around your pot, just on the same spot. Okay? And I'm gonna give it a nice, and it smells absolutely delicious. And we've got a few minutes on our timer. So, I have 20 seconds on our timer. I had a glass, yeah. Oh, sorry, tomato paste. So, we're gonna grab our huge tablespoon, not your measuring spoons, just a tablespoon. And again, we're gonna go over the pot. I'm gonna push the meat mixture to the sides as much as possible. There's some liquid now from the onions and whatever, so I'm just gonna push, push, push as much as possible. Don't worry about it so much. Okay, and I'm gonna scoop out a huge tablespoon, whatever I get. I actually want to feel how much I got. That's good. I'm going to find my wooden spoon that's in the middle of the pot and toss it off. Now, check. Push whatever's on off with my finger. And I'm going to saute now this tomato paste. I'm just sauteing it. I'm pushing down with my spatula. It's hard to see now because steam is coming up. So I'm just sauteing it, stirring it, and now you can actually just mix it all up. It doesn't matter. It's still sauteing. Okay. Now I've mixed up the meat and the tomato paste. So there's no danger of it burning. So we're going to go over to our sink and get water. Remember I use these spring water. Now, just use a regular glass, whatever, an 8-ounce glass. Just fill up your glass with water. All right. Okay, filled up my glass, and I'm gonna move over to the pot and dump the water in. Just dump in a whole glass of water. Don't use a gigantic glass. Use 8-ounce, a regular glass. Now, at this point, I'm going to turn it up again because I want it to come to a boil. So I'm going to turn it up to high. And now with the water, I'm going to make the same slicing motions. So if any meat hasn't broken up, I'll probably get it now. Again, whatever I feel is really chunky, I'm just chopping away. So if you're angry at somebody today, this is a good meal to make. Take out all your frustrations. Just keep jabbing away. Jab, 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 jab. Oh, I can become a boxer. Jab, jab, jab. Or something else. Now it's starting to boil. I don't want it to splatter me. So I'm going to turn it down to medium. Give it a few more jabs and strokes, and that's it. So, take your wooden spoon out, tomato paste aside. Now, my ears are good, but I've got a window next to me, and the rain is really loud. Is this actually boiling up? I can hear it. It is. So, but I leaned over to listen to it. Of course, I could have just turned off my window. Can you hand me that lid over there? Mm-hmm. Thank you. Cover it. Okay. Set your timer for half an hour.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30 minutes.
Press start. Check. Yep, it's working. Okay. So I'm not going to keep you guys here for the full 30 minutes until we're ready for the next step. But I'm going to keep you around for a little bit more because this is a perfect opportunity to, one, the recipe calls for parsley. Unfortunately, I didn't get any at the supermarket this weekend. So today's a Monday. Usually we do our grocery shopping Friday, Saturday, Sunday, one of those days. I didn't get parsley because I thought I had frozen parsley. Remember I told you guys, I buy bunches of parsley, I wash them, I clean them, I chop them up finely, and I put them in freezer bags, and I put them in the freezer. And when I need the parsley, open up the freezer bag, grab out with my hands 2-3 handfuls, or maybe I have a measurement, maybe a cup or half a cup or whatever the case may be, throw it in to our food, excuse me, and then zip the bag back up and put it back in the freezer. When the parsley's frozen, it shouldn't be out for too long. Well, when I went this morning to gather all my ingredients, guess what? I didn't have parsley in my freezer. So I'm actually not going to use parsley today. If I was going to use parsley, I would put it in when I add my crushed tomatoes. I don't have it. So don't watch this video and say, hey, she said parsley, but she forgot to put it in. I didn't. I just don't have it. And it'll still turn out great. So actually, if you want to make this and you happen to have ground beef in your freezer, and you want to defrost it today that you're watching the video so you can actually make this recipe tomorrow, but you don't have parsley and you can't get to a supermarket for whatever reason, it's okay. Go ahead and make it anyways. Now, the other thing I want to mention, 2 more things before I let you go. I'm going to put the cheese back in the freezer. We're going to use it when it comes back to time for serving. What did I want to mention? I did want to mention something about the cheese. Yeah, anyways, cheese shouldn't be out too long. Oh, if you don't have the Greek cheese, of course, go ahead and use Parmesan cheese or Romano or your favorite, whatever. But if you want that authentic Greek taste, you would either use one of the 2 cheeses that I told. Oh, you can buy both. You can mix them up. Oh, okay. Let me put this in the fridge for a second. I'll tell you something else about the cheese. Hold on. So let's say that you can get to a Greek bakery / supermarket, but you can't get to one all the time. Maybe it's a little bit further away. The cheese, you can actually ask them. Now, unfortunately, Greek cheese is a little bit expensive because it's imported. These cheeses are not made in Canada or the US. There are some Greeks who are nice and brave and they make their own. However, they taste good, but it's not the authentic taste because, again, the animals eat different things in Greece than they do here. Just to give you an example what I mean by that. So, you know our lawns, the grass? In the US and Canada, we have these nice green lawns, if you manicure them correctly, which I don't, because I can't. Some animals eat that type of grass. In Greece, actually, this type of grass didn't exist up until, I would say 10, 15 years. Maybe about 15 years ago, they started to plant and install the type of green grass lawns that we have here. Maybe you saw something similar on a soccer field, on a professional soccer field in Greece, but backyards and front yards and in general in Greece, they don't have the lawns that we do. Well, they do now, or they're starting to use them now. Just wait until they get into weeds and all that stuff. But anyways, okay, I'm not warning them. So animals eat in Greece. The pastures are filled with wild grasses that we probably do have some of them here. But again, they're different from here. The animals eat differently there. And mix that in with the sea salt air from the ocean and so on and so forth. They eat differently. So the cheese tastes differently coming from Greece. So anyways, if you can afford it, and you can get it, you would go to your Greek bakery / supermarket, or one or the other, and you would say to them, can I have, for example, a kilogram or half a kilogram, whatever you can afford, of Mitzithra, and I know that's hard to say, that's why I'm going to put it in the description box, and a half or 1 kilogram of Kefalotiri. And what you can do then is you can either, just in the bags that they come, or in the containers that they come, put them in Ziploc bags. If the container fits into the Ziploc bag, just put the whole container into a Ziploc bag if you have the large ones. Or the bag of cheese, just put it with the bag into a Ziploc bag, label it, put it in your freezer. If you want, you can mix up the cheeses and put them all together in one Ziploc bag. And that will not go bad. You could probably have it in your fridge 6 months, 8 months, 9 months. It won't go bad, I guarantee you. And that way you'll always have Greek cheese on hand when you're craving it. So, and we do that. So I bought 3 containers of cheese because, like I said, my mom needs, I think, 1 to herself. Whatever's left over, I am going to freeze. Why would I throw out really expensive cheese? Okay, so the final thing I want to show you before I let you guys go is the tomato paste. So I'm just going to grab a spoon. Do we have any left?
Yep.
Good. So I'm just going to put my spoon into my jar with the back of the spoon, and I'm just going to push it down. Now I'm probably going to have to use my fingers because who knows if I'm getting it right. So I'm just pushing it down, and I'm going to check with my fingers, and it's probably easier for me with my fingers. So I'm going to check now. Yeah, pretty good. Okay, I'm just, since I've got my finger in there, I'm just flattening it out, spreading it out. Now it's funny. Again, I'm not going to lick my finger from the tomato paste because my husband's going to yell at me, you licked your finger on the video, as we've said before. My mom, actually, when she was young, she used to take fresh bread and she used to spread tomato paste on it and eat it. And that was one of her favorite snacks, anyhow. So that, and actually I found out that a lot of Greek people did that. And maybe it was back in my mom's time. It was just after the wars. Like, my mom was born in 1947. So the World War II was in 1940. So even though it was 1947, like, Greece was still suffering. And somewhere there, and I'm sorry I don't remember, please don't say I don't know my Greek history, there was a civil war as well. So there was a few wars and people weren't, anyways, well off. Now, how much oil do you add? Don't worry about it. I'm just going to find the center and tip my oil over. And I'm just shaking oil in. Now, I've shook in, you saw how long, maybe 10 seconds. I'm just going to check with my finger. And I don't feel too much oil, so I'm going to add a little bit more. Aquí.
Mm-hmm.
Again. And let's check again. It's not even 10 seconds. Maybe it's about 5. Okay. I think that's good. So just add, make sure your tomato paste is covered. Okay? And I'm going to put the cap on. I did have a napkin. We don't need the glass that we used before. We don't need that anymore. Didn't I have one here? Anyway. See, this is Zoe making a mess. And I'm going to put this, I'm going to label it later off camera. Just checking the outside to make sure that there's no stuff and get it all over my fridge. I'm closing it really tightly and I'm going to put it in the fridge. This will last, I'd like to say a month, but I don't want to throw you guys in the wrong direction. Definitely for 2 to 3 weeks, I think. Okay, so we've got 20 minutes left for our meat sauce boiling over there until it's time to add the ground tomatoes, and we would have added parsley as well, but we don't have it. And at that point, you can also taste it if you want. But we've got 20 minutes left, so I'm going to put you guys on hold. I've yapped away enough, and I need to clean up a little bit. So we'll be back in 20 for the next step. See you in a bit. Okay, guys, we're back. We've got 30 seconds left on our timer. While I wait for those 30 seconds, I want to tell you guys that during this 30 minutes, I probably stirred and checked. Yeah, that's the phone ringing. Who knows who it is? Who cares? Yeah. Anyways, stirred it up about 2 times. And I just want, the reason I'm telling you guys that is I checked on it twice, I stirred it up twice, and I gave it the jabs again. So every time you stir, I'm turning off the timer, every time you stir, give it those slicing motions and boxing jabs that we discussed. And I had time to clean up. At this point, we're gonna add our crushed tomatoes. Now I did the spaghetti before. Once I add these crushed tomatoes, I've already cleaned up. So once I add these crushed tomatoes, at this point, I would have started my pasta as well. So anyhow, let's add in the tomatoes. And I'm just going to stick the spoon in, see if I can get any out. Yeah, okay, whatever. Now, put this aside for a second. I'm going to stir it up with the tomatoes. Give it a few slicing motions and jabs every time you can. And now we're going to add water. So I'm going to add 2 cans of water. So over the sink. Okay. A little dropped out, it doesn't matter. So I'm going over and I'm going to dump 1 can in. Turn it up to high now. And I'm going to dump in 1 more can, so 2 cans of water. If you like your meat sauce really thick, add 1 can, but I wouldn't. Yeah, this is my recipe, right? So 2 cans of water, and let's give it a good stir. What did I do with my, oh, left it in, okay. Give it a good stir. Now, jab away again. At this point, I would add my parsley. This is more than enough liquid, and we're just going to stir it all up. Okay. We need to wait for this to come to a boil, which isn't going to take very long because we've mixed up a really hot mixture with a really a room temperature mixture. I'm just going to put my little plate that I was resting my spoon, take it over to the sink, just rinse it off, because now I'm using the empty can for my, for resting my spoon, and I'm just going to put it in my dishwasher. And if you guys don't know how to load a dishwasher, let me know, and maybe on another episode, we could do that as well. I'm going to set my timer for 20 minutes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20 minutes.
20 minutes. I'm not pressing start yet because I need for this to start. And yeah, it's starting to boil. So, where's my cap? Oh, cap lid. It's pretty much boiling. It's not at a full rapid boil, but it's almost there. So it's good enough. I'm going to cap it. Press start. Check on it. It's fine. Now, I've cleaned my counter as I showed you guys before. I'm just going to slightly give it a little opening for the steam to escape, just so that it doesn't boil over. Since I have you guys here, and we need about 20 minutes, I'm just going to show you a couple of quick things, if my cameraman doesn't mind. Yeah. Lysol wipes. They're more for disinfect than disinfecting your hands. And grab a Lysol wipe. Now, if you have a large food processor, maybe you can't store it in a container. You can't dip this into soapy water. You'll ruin it. You can run a very damp soapy cloth over it, and then with a very sort of damp cloth water, and then dry it. But there's an easier way. Take a Lysol wipe, rub it all down. You want to get rid of any smells that may be left over. Maybe, I mean, the container, the lid and the blade are all in the dishwasher. They'll be thoroughly disinfected. But I'm rubbing the appliance, wiping it everywhere with a Lysol wipe. This will take away anything left on here from our fingers, and it'll disinfect the appliance. I'm going to throw out the Lysol wipe, and I have a small container big enough to hold my food processor. It's just an old Tupperware, and I'm going to put it in here. This way, if there's some smell left on it, mice won't smell it. Unfortunately, we live in Canada, and in Canada, did I start my timer? I didn't, did I?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, I did. Okay, good. See, I thought I didn't, but I did. Okay, good. Which right now, instead of asking the sighted cameraman, I just would have went over and checked on it. But, you know. So, I put my food processor in an airtight container because unfortunately we live in Canada and the US, and mice get into houses. And the more precautions you can take, the better. I store things in bins, I make sure my cupboards are clean. I make sure that even garbage containers, if you have them in the house, they're airtight. I try to protect they'll still get in, but you might get one mouse every 2-3 years. Why do I smell something burning?
I don't know.
Huh?
I don't know.
Let me check on my food. Hold on. Let's check on our food. I smell something burning. It could be from outside. I'm sure it's not the food, but I'm going to check on it anyway. Nope, not our food.
No, I think it's from outside. I think somebody's burning leaves or something.
Yeah, it's coming in the house. At this point, you can taste your meat sauce for any more spices. I'm not going to bother. I'm pretty confident in my meat sauce. So as I was saying about the stupid mice, they get in. Even if it's once a year or once every couple of years. I haven't had one in a few years, but you never know. We always check for them. I have appliances that I don't use. I have them in plastic bags. I have them in the basement. I'm just grabbing another Lysol wipe. I've already washed my counter during the time I was cleaning up when I told you guys. So I'm just gonna wipe the whole counter down. You can dry it if you want from the Lysol, or you can just let it air dry. And let's cap the water. We no longer need the water. And I ran across my whole counter, so I've washed it, I've dried it, and now I'm running across my whole counter. And I did it on one side of the Lysol wipe, and now I'm using the other side. And I'm just going back and forth in a, vertical position. I just dropped the can where I have my spoon. Okay. While our meat sauce is cooking away, I'm going to show you guys a quick trick. I think it's a trick. When I was growing up, or when I was not growing up, when I was a young adult, people would say, wash your sink with Ajax, wash your sink with this, oh, this is made for sinks, washed with this brand, whatever. I found a very, very nice, easy thing. When I was young, my mom used to send me to the supermarket, and she used to say in her broken Greek, go! The guy at the supermarket that we had, it was kind of a supermarket vegetable market, like a little, it was mostly vegetables, and he had a few little bits and pieces of things, like some milk, some eggs, and it was your corner store, not a variety store. He did have some candy, but it was mostly 80% vegetables, and then maybe 10% of a little bit of pasta, a little bit of rice, a little bit of milk, eggs, and then maybe another 10% of chips and candy and pop or whatever. And he was Italian, and his name was Frank, and in the 70s it was wonderful because people were a lot more friendlier, I think, and everybody knew each other. So my mom would say to me, and he knew the Greek name for godparents, which is in Greek it's kubaro for a male, and kubara for a female. Or somebody who baptizes your kid is called a kubara or a kubaro. Anyways, and so he knew this. So his name was Frank, but all the Greeks would just call him kubaro, and he would call all the Greeks kubaro or kubara. So my mom would say to me in broken Greek, she'd say to me, go to kubaro and tell him you want SOS. Tell him SOS. So my mom used these SOS pads. So these have been around before I was born. She used them for pots and pans and various things. Well, I discovered these are excellent for cleaning your sink. So I have one. And before I start, I'm just going to check on our food again. We don't want it to stick. So I'm going to give it up another stir. Now, remember, we've got it at rapid boil. And I've showed you guys many times. You don't want this to splatter on you. So I'm going to use my shield, which is my lid, and check on it. Yep, we're good. Boiling up fine. I'm just going to partially cap it up again. Okay, now, I have a little bowl back here behind my sink with a used SOS pad. Now, the SOS pads, if you've never heard of them, it says in big letters SOS, and then it says soap-filled wool steel pads. These will not scratch your sink. I have an old one. It's dried up, but as soon as I wet it, if there's soap left in this, the soap will all come out. So let's try it. I'm just gonna wet it. So I'm running my tap water and I have it under. And my mom may have overused this. I feel a little bit of soap, which I think is good enough for today, just to show you guys. Now, if I felt that there wasn't enough soap on this, I'd use a new one. So just rub down your sink everywhere, where the drain is, the sides everywhere, the corners especially, because stuff builds up in the corners. This is a wonderful way, fast way. And then do your edges a little bit too. Stuff gets on the edges of the sink. You can even do your, here I'm doing my, the actual faucet. So I'm just scrubbing a little lightly. Don't put all your might, just scrub a little bit, wipe down. Here, my handle, just everything. And I feel something that feels like it's not coming off, so I'm just gonna scrub a little more, but I'll check on it later. And I'm just gonna do my other sink quickly. My small sink, which, so here's a nice trick. Now, turn on your water. I'm just gonna leave down the scouring pad, get all the soap off my hands. So there was quite a bit of soap on here. Throw water on your faucet first. So just rinse it all off. Now, if you think that you aren't getting it all of it off with your hands, see, I use my hands because I can, it gives me a good, I feel and scrub at the same time. Okay, so it's all off my faucet. I'm going to do the faucet handle. I'm just grabbing some water. Whoops. Throwing it on. Okay. Now, for the sake of this video, because I don't want to keep you guys here forever, I didn't get everything off the base where my handle is. I will do it off camera because I'm a perfectionist and I don't like the fact that I didn't get it all off. I am going to run my hands. I'm throwing water now in the sink. At this point, and on the edges, remember I did the edges. Now, at this point, I'm going to grab a glass. If you've got a plastic one, even better. Because I need to reach this side of the sink. The tap doesn't reach over there. So I'm just pouring water with my one hand. And with my left hand, I'm wiping. And this way I can also feel what hasn't come off. Okay? So rinse off all of this gunk. All this SOS steel wool soap gunk. And I'm just going around the sink. One hand is touching the sink, and the other hand is pouring water. 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 Now, I'm going to rinse off my hand for a second because I need to check on our food. Let's stop for a second. Go back to our food. So see, while I'm cooking, I'm cleaning at the same time. Okay? Lift our lid. Use it as a shield. Stir it up, make sure that it's not sticking. If you don't feel it sticking to the bottom, you've got quite a bit of time left, which we're halfway on our timer. So, we've stirred it up, checked on it. Slight, open up the, what did we say? Open up the, oh my English language. Cover up the pot, slightly open. Don't close it. Okay, back to pouring water at the sides of my sink where the tap can't reach. We're almost done. Now you might get a little bit of water like on the counter, just like I did. I'm just pushing it with my hand back into the sink. Okay. Now, just put this across the side for a second. I'm just gonna feel with my hands to see if any soap is left. And I don't feel anything. At this point, I have to tell you, because again, because I'm a perfectionist, when I run my hand on the sink, I can feel something hasn't come off. Something just in a corner. It could be from the wool scouring pad. It could be from our food and stuff. So because I'm a perfectionist, I would just run the wool pad again and wipe it down again, or even just that part. So here, I would take the wool pad and go to the part that I think something's left, turn the water back on, and grab the glass, because my tap won't reach there, and pour water slowly while I wipe to see if it's all gone. Yep. And now it's all gone. So whatever that was, the first time didn't come off. And your sink, and I'm just gonna, again, check what I've already checked. Because I'm just that way. I may run this, I may actually do this 2-3 times to make sure that I've gotten everything. And your sink is nice and clean, and it's disinfected, and there's actually the, I don't know why, but the SOS pad gives it a nice shine. So, I don't know, it's maybe you're polishing somehow, I don't know. So I'm just going to go over to my small sink. Now my small sink is easier for me to do because the tap, as I turn it, it basically reaches to almost everywhere. So I actually don't need to use the glass. So I'm actually talking now. If I wasn't talking, I'd probably already be done. So how long did it take me to wash my kitchen sink? Every time you do a meal, and the other thing you could do is if you have one of those drain plugs, you can plug up, yeah, hold on. Because I'm talking and doing stuff at the same time. So you can hear my fingers. See, you can hear that noise because I'm rubbing my fingers to make sure there's no grease or anything left on the walls or bottoms of my, excuse me, bottoms of my sink. So how long did that take me to actually clean my sink? Not long at all. And if I wasn't talking, it would have taken me even quicker. This glass is clean because we didn't touch anything with it, but I'm just going to give it a rinse off just in case with water. And I'm going to put it in our, here to dry, air dry. What was that?
No, me, it was me.
I'm just wiping my counter because I got water on my counter. I'm just using a kitchen towel. And our sinks are clean, even though you guys know I just told you there is a part that I realized I missed at the base of my faucet handle, which I will do off camera because it bothers me that it's not done. So, your meal is cooking, your pasta is done, your meat is done. You've already cleaned your counter, you've cleaned your kitchen, your sink, and it's not only that you've cleaned it, but it's spotless too. And easy to do if you use these SOS pads. And the SOS pads are not expensive. I actually don't remember how much they are. But I know they're much cheaper than buying a bottle of Mr. Clean. It's not that I don't use those brands for other things. Of course I do, just like everybody. But here's an easy way. And I actually use the SOS pads. And while I'm talking to you, I'm just going to check on our food again. Because we're getting near the mark of it thickening up and starting to stick. So the SOS pads, see, it's starting to stick. So that means that you're pretty much almost done. So I'm using my shield because it's splattering, and I'm just checking, I'm scraping it off the bottom. Don't worry, it's not burnt because we are checking on it often. Whoops, I just moved my pot. So I'm going to center it again because I moved it. Now this part is a little dangerous, so give me a second. I want to make sure what happened here. Something's happened.
No,
Oh, there it goes. Okay. Sorry.
Go a little bit more in.
Yeah, I will. Okay, it's good enough. It's here, so I don't want it to stick. So I'm just gonna pull the stick out. Pull the stick out. The spatula. Set it down again. Now I need to check on it more often, so I'm gonna stand right here next to it because we're almost done. I'm gonna stand right here next to it so I can chat with you guys while this is finishing up. I don't remember how much time the timer said. Probably about 5 minutes left, I'm assuming. So around the 15-minute mark, this is where, if you want to pull it off at the 15-minute mark, once you feel the first time that it's starting to stick, go right ahead. You can leave it for the full 20 minutes. You can pull it off at 18. It's up to you guys. I'm going to leave it on for the full 20 minutes. Oh, there you go. We're at the 19-minute mark, so there you go. So I'm just going to actually let it cook up, and I'm just going to cover it now because we really don't have any danger. I'm going to let it, hold on, let that minute finish. While that's happening, I was telling you guys something. Oh, the SOS pads, yeah. Anyways, they're cheap. I'm going to get a dinner plate out. They're cheap. I use them even to do my stovetop. And it cleans like a wonder. And I have to tell you that there was some point I wanted to clean my bathtub. This was when I was younger and living on my own. I was about 22, 23 years old. I didn't have money to buy all these fancy cleaners. And I happened to have the SOS pads on. The SOS pads on hand. And I actually used an SOS pad to clean my bathtub. Let me tell you, I confirmed with a sighted person, and they actually said your bathtub is spotless. So, okay, timer's up. I'm going to turn off the heat. Okay, I've done that. I'm going to let it settle down for a minute because, like I said, at this point it splatters. So I'm going to let it settle down a bit. And I actually cleaned my bathtub with an SOS pad, and it was spotless, I tell you. as long as you feel with your hand and get all that gunk off. So I'm just gonna grab a fancy pasta, which I should have gotten out before, but thank God I found it quickly. We didn't have, my mom didn't even know what this was when I bought it. They didn't have these things in the 70s. Or if they did, nobody had them. Nobody knew about them. Maybe the fancy chefs knew about them. So it's a ladle. It's got a hole in the middle. Can actually stick my whole finger right through the hole in the middle. And on the edges, it's got these long teeth. I bet you each teeth is probably about 1.5 to 2 centimeters. I could be wrong. I'm not good with measurements, but I think it's probably about 1.5 to 2 centimeters. Definitely an inch. Definitely. I know that much. So it's got these teeth. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, around 11 teeth going around. So I'm going to grab my pasta. Now, oh boy, it's heavy. Okay. Remember I said the pasta will stick even if you put olive oil. And to confirm, see, it's all stuck together. So if I had served this right away, it would have been better. But you can add a little bit more olive oil at this point. But if you kind of just wiggle it around and lift with this, this is nice because it's got the teeth. So I'm just going to, I grabbed a nice big ladle and I'm going to put it on the plate. And with the ladle and my fingers are clean. I just used so much soap and water. I'm just spreading out the pasta on the plate. And this is it's good enough. This is a healthy, this is a Greek serving. This is not, and I'm just spreading out the pasta with my fingers while I'm talking to you guys because, well, 1, my fingers are clean, and 2, my family trusts me. This is a healthy Greek serving. This is not your typical serving. See, I put that plate aside, but I actually need it again. I put that plate in the dishwasher because the next person who's going to serve themselves is going to use this. So I'm just going to put the plate down and put my ladle on there. Cap the spaghetti. Now, again, with the spaghetti, or linguine in this case, you can add less oil at the beginning and add a little bit more now to unstick it. Unstick it. That's not unstick it. That's not a word, but anyways. But to spite that, I was able to, with the ladle, I was able to spread it out and with my fingers. And believe me, it's not one, it's not a piece of dough. It's still spaghetti. Look, I can actually pick up one piece of spaghetti. So it's not all stuck together dangerously and all that. So let's go back to our meat sauce. And I need a ladle for that. Hold on. Alrighty. It's pretty much settled down at this point. See, I keep dropping my can with my wooden spatula thing in it because I can't see it. But I know where it is, but I go to grab it and so it's actually still boiling, but that's okay. It's not going to splatter me at this point. I'm going to give it a nice stir. Yeah, looks good to me. Feels right. Okay. Now, this is up to preference. Like I said, if I was serving my mom, I wouldn't put too much meat sauce on hers because she doesn't like it. And I want to tell you guys, I want to tell you guys before I let you go, before I serve this. Yeah, okay, that's just the can falling again. Another way Greeks love to eat pasta is they will saute pasta in butter or something called fettuccine, which is kind of like a vegetable shortening. They will put the butter or this vegetable shortening in a frying pan and they will heat it up to a very high point. It should be sizzling. And then they'll add in the spaghetti and they will cook it up for a few minutes in that buttery or butter or shortening. And then as it's hot, they will throw on a whole bunch of cheese. That's actually my mom's favorite way to eat spaghetti. So I have a plate of spaghetti. I'm gonna take it. I'm over my, did I leave it in? See? Don't know where I put my ladle. Oh, there it is, okay. Grab a ladle full of meat sauce. Lift it up, slide my plate underneath, and slowly pour it. Usually in the middle. You're gonna say, well, Zoe, how do I know where the middle is? It's okay, approximate. Now, this might be enough for somebody, but it might not. So I'm just gonna add a little more, just a touch. If somebody wants more, they can add more. That's good enough. So there's our spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm gonna put the ladle on the plate with the spaghetti ladle, past the ladle, and I'm gonna grab the cheese. And you can do it with a spoon, but I'm blind, so I'm going to do it with my fingers. I'm just opening up the container. It's easier for me to grab pinches and sprinkle it over. Grab another pinch, sprinkle it over. And there you go, guys. We have our... Now, that might be a little bit of cheese, but I'm actually going to serve this to somebody, one of my seniors who doesn't like a lot of cheese. So obviously it's not my mom, because my mom, she wants half that container. And there you go. That's our spaghetti with meat sauce, Greek cheese on top. And I've told you everything I need to tell you. I even showed you how to clean the sink. And I don't have anything else to tell you today. I did tell you... I did mention, yeah, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe. Check for the ingredients in the description box or refer to the start of the video. Love you guys as always. If you need to ask me anything, zoesblindkitchencorner at gmail.com. Zoe's, remember, doesn't have an apostrophe. It's Z-O-E-S. Like my videos, subscribe, and talk to you guys next week. See you. No, I forgot to give you my kisses. I'm sorry. A blind kiss to you, and to you who's sitting next to you on the couch, and to you with the curly hair, and the blonde, and the brunette, and the tall guy, and the short guy. A blind kiss to all of you. Bye for now. See you next week. I am your host, Zoe Fiogos, with sincere love and gratitude. I thank you for watching Zoe's Blind Kitchen Corner.